So far, many states have chosen to postpone their primaries until June, and rightfully so, because we're dealing with a global pandemic that has no end date. We don't necessarily know how long self-quarantine and social distancing will be required, so the best course of action for states currently is to postpone their primaries to June, and in the meanwhile, get in place some sort of vote-by-mail mechanism to allow people to make their voices heard. But not all states have postponed their primaries. Wisconsin is set to vote on April 7th, and as you all know, that's unsafe. After Joe Biden and Tom Perez all insisted that it was safe for people to vote on March 17th, guess what happened? People got infected with COVID-19. This happened in Florida. You have elderly people who are vulnerable working the polls. It's not safe. So people shouldn't be forced to risk their lives to make their voices heard. Like, you shouldn't have to weigh whether or not exercising your democratic right to vote is more important than risking your life. Like, this isn't real democracy, right? In third world countries, if we see a level of intimidation that makes people, disinclined to vote, we say that election is illegitimate. So here, we should hold ourselves to the same standard that we hold third world countries to. If our citizens feel afraid to vote, we have to postpone that vote, implement vote by mail in the meantime. And Bernie Sanders thankfully spoke out. He agrees. He tweeted, "People shouldn't have to put their lives on the line to vote. Wisconsin should join the 15 states delaying elections, delay Tuesday's vote, extend early voting, and work to send every voter a ballot by mail. While we wait for a decision, we urge our supporters to vote by mail." Now, the response from centrists, if I'm allowed to generalize here, has been basically to attack Bernie Sanders for not dropping out. Because basically the burden here is being put on him. Since he is choosing to stay in the race, well then him, single-handedly, he's the one responsible for putting people's lives at risk. Because he's going to lose, in their view, so what does it matter? It's not on states who have had ample time to institute some sort of vote by mail. It's not on them. It's not their responsibility. The responsibility is on Bernie Sanders to drop out. Interesting. It's almost like they have a political agenda and they don't care about democracy. Now, when it comes to Wisconsin, Bernie Sanders is down like 25 points, according to the last poll that I saw. So even if you postpone it to June, I don't think he's going to make up that deficit. It would be very, very difficult for him. So this isn't even about politics. This is about protecting people's lives. So I know that Democrats want to hurry up and rush through this primary so they can coronate Joe Biden, but I don't think they have to worry. Things most likely won't change. Bernie isn't out of the running yet, but will he likely win? Probably not. So rather than pressuring Bernie Sanders to drop out, just do the right fucking thing and implement vote by mail. Like, think of what they're saying here. Half of the Democratic Party has yet to vote, and they're blaming Bernie for staying in the race, rather than trying to give voters an extra option. Look, my niece, she turned 19, and she is finally old enough to vote for the very first time, and she will enthusiastically be supporting Bernie Sanders. You really want to deny her right to vote? Something she's enthusiastic to do for the first time? And it's not just my niece. A lot of people, Zoomers, are finally eligible to vote. And the Democratic Party wants to silence all of them just to wrap up this primary because they are too lazy or too stupid to carry out some sort of vote by mail procedure by June. No, fuck off. People deserve to vote. People deserve to make their voices heard. I haven't gotten a chance to vote. Do I think that, these upcoming primaries are going to change the dynamics of this race? Not necessarily, but we still need to make our voices heard. We have two very different options, and I want to be able to vote and have my fucking say. Is that too difficult? Like, it's so frustrating to me that the Democratic Party never takes responsibility. They always find a scapegoat. In this instance, it's Bernie Sanders. It's not them for being too stupid to carry out vote by mail when they knew this was going to be an issue, when they knew these primaries were coming up. They blame Bernie Sanders. Look, this party is doing everything they possibly can do to drive away voters and not allowing people to make their voices heard by forcing them to risk their lives to vote during a global pandemic, that's not going to make you any more popular. So do the right thing, postpone these primaries, and while you postpone them, implement vote by mail. It's not that difficult. If you can't do this, then maybe you're not competent enough to run the country. Figure it out, get it done.